and welcome back to RWBY Reviews. I'm Ricardo, the Cynical Critic, and here we are again at the end of another volume, and I have to admit, it's turned out a lot differently than I thought.
I'll say, ding dong, the bitch is dead.
Yes, but we still have one more episode to get through, and afterwards, I'll have a lot to say about this volume, and what I call the beginning of compromise.
Oh boy, this is gonna be good, folks. Not joking, for once I agree with this idiot on something. Again, I feel dirty.
But first, let's go over what happened in this volume before we start.
Basically, we've had 3 arcs to follow: the rise of the Faunus, the reunion of RWBY, and Raven's journey. In the former, we've got to see Blake try and call her people to stand up against their very own, the White Fang. However, this was not an easy task, both politically and personally, as the people of Menagerie were content in the life they've made, becoming cut off not only from the humans and their occasional hate, but from the worries of the outside world. And this was still not made easier, as an old friend of Blake had returned into her life, but now they were no longer on the same side. Ilya was in pain, but Blake could not reach her, hard as she tried. However, she did not give up, and eventually managed to break through to her secret admirer when she foiled the White Fang's attack on her family. And even though the lizard lesbian didn't deserve it, Blake showed her people that forgiveness was far stronger than hate, both in emotion and in healing. So, through her example, the Faunus decided that they would go to Mistral and save Haven Academy from Adam's attack. Though this was not as hard as they thought, for Adam was losing it, suffering from lazy writing-itis. And in spite of his attempt to take them all down with his pride, the Fangs still fight for Adam. But will they be able to stand up against their friends, their families, the people they've been fighting for? Well, we still have one episode for all this to turn around. And throughout the volume, bit by bit, the remnants of Team RWBY have traveled the world, by land, by sea, by air, to return to their sister. Weiss was the first to find the others, discovering Yang after being captured by the Bimbo's mother. The two then traveled to Mistral, thanks to the deadbeat mom, about one of the only good things she's ever done for a kid in her life. And now, where after some tears and fumbling of words, the pseudo-mommy has reunited with her daughter from another mother. But all is not well, as much of Ozpin's past was a secret that the gang did not want kept from them, not when they were risking so much. Though Raven had been wrong to run, a good deal of what she said was true, including Crow and her's ability to anamorph into birds, courtesy of Ozpin's magic. But Oz wasn't the only one to be mistrusted, though he was the better of the two, for Leo's allegiances has changed, with him and Raven leading the rest into a trap as Cinder, Raven, and Vernal descends into the Spring Maiden's vault. However, despite each being a team member down, Team RWBY and Team Juniper proved that they were still a match to make against the forces of darkness. And with the return of Blake, they were reinvigorated, restored, and raring to go. With the distraction given by her friend, and nothing else, Yang leapt after the maidens. For indeed there were 2 maidens that entered the domain of spring, but Vernal turned out to be but a distraction, for it seems that Raven has had an interesting life. First entering Beacon to learn how to kill those she was feigning to become, only seemingly to discover camaraderie and friendship, and perhaps even love. But something happened. Being the eyes and ears of Ozpin has led her into learning of something that planted the seeds of doubt towards the headmaster and his plans. Soon after, she turned and ran back to her tribe, where not long after, the Spring Maiden came to follow her. And something must have happened, for the Spring Maiden, frightened, was not long for this world. And as she left, her powers passed on to Raven. And it was the False Fall Maiden that bore witness to the might that Raven wielded. However, even with Cinder fallen, another has arrived to challenge Raven. However mighty as she may be, will she be able to stand up to this one?
Well, let's find out. Lakana, roll the clip, will ya?
My pleasure.
You think? No, skip. Wearing a helmet this time.
Damn it. Why can't we watch it?
Because I've seen it like 1,000 times before.
Okay, that's a little over-exaggeration.
Okay, maybe not 1,000 times, but I've seen it enough, man. I want to get to the episode. I mean, why do you want to watch it?
Because it's awesome. I mean, think about it. Every time you watch the intro, it's like it's pumping you up for the episode. And every time I watch it, I can't help but think of all the awesome things that happened last time. I mean, sure, sometimes there were some bad things, but what's the point in focusing on that when you're watching the next episode? Look to the future of bigger and brighter things. That's why I watch the intro, because it's like it's trying to get me stoked for this new episode. I mean, aren't you excited?
I mean, yeah, man, it's the last episode of the season, and yeah, sure, there's a few problems I'm sure are gonna pop up again, but I'm excited. That's why I want to jump into the episode.
Well, I'm excited, so that's why I want to watch the intro, because it helps build to that excitement, helps me remind myself just how far RWBY has come. I mean, think about it. Just a few years ago, this show was nothing more than a web series, and now it's a fully fledged anime, despite what some of the asshats might think. So for me, the intro is a reminder to all of that. That's why I want to watch it.
And let me guess, through our discussion, we've watched the intro.
Yep.
You happy?
When you're around, no, but I've learned to deal.
Good to know. Moving on. And we return to an episode of Cops, already in progress, where the White Thing is being arrested. This is because he's black, isn't it? Also, the villainous gang that had the whole world worried, people, brought down by some savages with sticks. Speaking about terrible, pathetic pieces of filth,
I'm going to make you regret ever coming back.
More police are on their way, Adam. Huntsman too.
Still too afraid to face me on your own.
I'm here for Haven, not you.
and to make things even more pathetic, for the writers that is, the new boyfriend reminds the ex that things aren't looking good for him. Adam, however, doesn't give up without a fight. A very short-lived fight before fleeing like a little bitch. Blake then stops Sun from chasing him, knowing her old mentor wants to divide and kill them.
Besides, now he can see what it feels like to run away. Thank you.
Black Sun confirmed.
Curse this one-shot pistol. Give me a second, I gotta reload.
Anyways, back with Crow and the kids, we see that they're just barely holding out. Turns out that Hazel is one tough meth head. I guess he's been using Heisenberg's new stuff. But upon defeat of the Queen Bee, another bee leaps in and Mario's him. I guess monkey see, monkey do. Also,
Problem! I see an error! Ah!
the White Rose welcomes Blake back, and after getting rid of the other kitty, the three...
Jesus, dude! Indoor voices!
Even your teammates are like, holy shit, dude, calm the f*** down. Well, back downstairs, we see Raven trying to talk the big talk. I guess because she knows that in a battle, one of them is a little bit more expendable to the story than the other. Seeing that she is now the Spring Maiden, Yang asks what happened to the previous one, but suspicion creeps in.
How could you? She was scared when we found her. Weak. No matter how much training I put her through, she never learned. She wasn't cut out for this world. And with those powers, she would have been hunted her entire life. What I did
wasn't personal.
It was mercy.
Yang then questions Raven's motives, saying that, no, she doesn't know her. Only the one that Tai told her daughter about. The complicated but loyal and strong person that fought for her tribe and her team.
Did you kill her too?
I've stared death in the face over and over again, and every time I've spat in that face and survived because I'm strong enough to do what others won't.
Oh, shut up! You don't know the first thing about strength. You turn your back on people. You run away when things get too hard. You put others in harm's way instead of yourself. You might be powerful, but that doesn't make you strong.
Raven tries to put her daughter in her place, but Yang tells her that scared or not, she's taking the relic. Because otherwise, Raven will have two reasons to run from Salem. The relic and her being a maiden. With the latter, at least Salem may not be as interested as attaining the relic of knowledge.
She'll come after you with everything she has. Or she could come after me. And I'll be standing there, waiting for her.
You don't want to do this, Yang.
Nope. But I'm gonna do it anyway.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Me too.
And after Raven's flight, Yang walks through the door and, holy cow, Okay, I'm not gonna lie. This entire scene was more than worth the graphical upgrade. Oh, crap, she's crying. Get up, you big baby. Your teammates are dying as you pout. Speaking of which...
That's enough! Just give up.
It's not over. Cinder will come back. She'll have the relic, and she'll stop all of you. She won't let us down.
Yeah, no, 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 no.
See, sweetheart, this is why you don't tempt the irony god. Because he'll make shit go down in the past if he has to. Okay, while you're all staring, none of you want to try and nab the relic? My waifu's only got one arm. If you're fast enough, you can grab it and Assassin's Creed your way out of there. No, instead, Emerald.
Emerald. What the hell is going on?
Critic?
Holy popo, that was scary! Why don't they do that more often in video games? Screw your jump scares and your trench coats. Just have the graphics on the monsters fuck up sometimes, and the player will piss themselves enough to drown a presidential hooker.
What was that?
An illusion, but an accurate one. That was Salem.
Well, it was enough for our bad guys to hoof it, where we even see Adam pisses off.
Good. Also, it seems your failures are too great. You should commit seppuku.
Anyways, some of you might be asking, where did Leo go? Well, as he tried to book it, Salem's floating jellyfish shows up to tell him that she isn't happy with his failures. And despite putting up a struggle, I think we all know where this is going.
As it is the law of anime, anytime a pussycat is near a tentacle...
Back with the gang, Ilya informs the White Fang is being rounded up, but though he has escaped, Adam will find it difficult getting others to follow a leader that abandons his people. Seeing her, Sun turns Blake to face Yang. The firecracker tells Crow what she saw, and that Raven is... gone. Again. Before seeing to her sister. Blake then walks up and Ladybug exchanges some small talk as under another quiet tune from our favorite RWBY singer, Team RWBY reunites.
What are you doing here?
I was gonna ask you three the same thing.
That's a long story.
Well, I'm not going anywhere.
That's all that matters. That we're all here together. Right?
Yeah.
I never know if you'll come through. Then you appear. Together we're here.
As Team Junior looks at John for something that he'll never get, Crow checks on Oz, who seems to be resting as Oscar tells the old bird that he used up a lot in the fight. Before passing out, he informs Crow that they must take the lamp to Atlas. And as you might expect, we get another end credit scene after 2 minutes of credits, to which, like the feel at the end of this volume, feels anticlimactic and rushed, just so that we can get to some dumb advertisement for a show we don't care about.
Oh, suck it up! Both those shows did poorly. One of them is the main reason Rooster Teeth couldn't feed their animators.
You just don't like bunny waifus.
Anyways, guys, there you have it. The last episode of Volume 5, and it was good. But it could have been done better.
Good. You're like the spitting image of one of my exes. Say you love it while it's happening, and then complain afterwards that it wasn't good enough.
Now, there are 2 reasons for this episode and this volume in general feeling underwhelming. But while I get into the hate, don't forget that I just said that it was good. You're gonna forget it, aren't you? God damn it. Well, let's just get into it. The first issue is when it came to the last episode in general. It's one of the reasons why splitting the final book into a series of multiple movies often doesn't work, because the first half usually has all the introduction and action, and the second half wraps everything up. Instead, Rooster Teeth should have just sucked it up and combined episode 13 and this one. Yes, it would have made a very long episode, but at least it would have felt satisfyingly complete. Plus, when have people ever complained about the length of an episode so long as it was good, which is one of the reasons why I watched the seasons in their entirety, just to avoid this. However, that could have been avoided altogether, and they could have kept to their original design if Adam had been a better character. I don't understand why Miles and Carrie are able to make such great ones when they're coming to the protagonists, but they fail time and time again with their villains. Because Adam could have been the final fight that we were looking for. But I'll get to that in a second. Instead, let's look at the final fight that we did get. It was a battle not with bronze, but with hearts. Each trying to psych the other out, each trying to use their failures against them, and each showing their underlining intent in doing so. It was a little dissatisfying not seeing these two really talk like mother and child, but the voice actors pulled it off, and Yang was right. They kinda aren't.
Sweet, then that legitimizes my, manga on them in a way that those stuffy Americans don't get all bothered by. Aren't you the guys the ones that keep this thing going in today's age?
Because the entire second half of the volume has led up to this. Raven's failure as a mother. At first we were given no reason for her leaving, and like Yang, assumed that it must have been forces outside of her control, assuming that she wanted to stay, but couldn't. But now we know. It was because she was afraid. Afraid of Salem. Afraid of the life that she now found herself in. Afraid of parenthood. And possibly even afraid that Yang would follow her as well. Because despite her constant invitations, it never really seemed like Raven was truly trying to win her over. Just trying to keep her away from Ozpin. And there might be good reasons for that, as being his eyes and ears, she has seen more than most and knows more than most. Ozpin too confirmed as much, never truly damning Raven's decisions, only disappointed in her lack of courage.
And she wasn't the only one afraid. And again, we must wonder why Spring went to Raven of all people.
I thought that would have been obvious.
What relationship did they have to not only trust her so much, but also allow her to, well, because it doesn't seem like Raven wanted those powers, knowing that it would only ensure that Salem would never leave her alone. She must have cared for the Spring Maiden, and there must have been something that frightened the girl enough for her to see no way out.
A drink to my waifu. I never knew your name, nor saw your face, but I know you would have been mine.
And speaking of the seasons, what did happen this summer? It too has not been revealed to us. All that we know is that she went on a mission and never came back. Perhaps Raven inexplicably had something to do with it. Whether it be like what happened with Spring, or merely through an action of hers, we don't know. But with Raven, it could go either way. Here is someone not played up to be the hero in this story, but a cautionary tale of what happens when one breaks in this war with Salem, and what happens when they truly only look out for themselves. They end up alone. She really isn't meant to be someone we sympathize with, but pity instead. Pity because she is alone, that her daughter who wanted her, needed her, no longer wishes to see her or hear her voice. And though she may not have even wanted this life, wanted what happened between her and her little firecracker, her story isn't over. But it is clear that she wasn't ready to fight in this war, to lose so much, to be a mother.
It's just a great scene with so much underlining it. And though she didn't respond like a normal daughter would, asking all the why questions, it seems that Yang isn't done with Raven either.
While she acted like she was done with Raven, her specific words and tears tell otherwise. For a brief moment, she was just a child looking for her mom, and Raven wasn't ready to take that role, nor was she ready to throw it away altogether. She was a maiden, powerful and skilled, and yet she didn't even put up a fight when Yang came to take the relic. True, it would have made her a bigger target, but still, it shows that even in her coldness, she still loves her little girl.
Ah, there he goes, making me feel again.
But not everyone comes back from that, either because they think they're too far gone, or they're not given the chance, or both.
Leonardo's journey throughout this volume was set to seemingly be one of redemption. It looked like the stereotypical plotline. A former hero turns on the others, becomes less and less certain of the choice they've made, pushed to a turning point, and then betrays their new masters, leading them to join back with the heroes or dying as one. But that wasn't the case here. Instead, we see two different outcomes. The first is what happens when fear takes hold of someone who doesn't care about anyone but themselves. At least with Raven, there is still at least one that anchors her heart to the light. But Leo would be willing to let the world burn if it meant that he could still be alive, alone in the ashes. The second reason for this outcome is Salem herself and the fear and power that influences onto others. The Admiral may have only been able to create an illusion, but as Osmond said, it was an accurate one. And we saw how much she can twist even some of the best, building to the ominous threat that our heroes would have to face.
Together, my love, you and your Scully senpai, we could rule this world.
And as I said, that's part of the overarching theme of this volume. The failures of Ozpin.
Each volume has had its own theme as well as a character building focus. In volume 1, it was building of a team, and some of the characters learning how to become leaders or setting them up to take back leadership. In volume 2, it was introducing the team into the plot and what might be at stake, and the girls learning what brought each of them there and using it to drive them to keep moving forward. Volume 3 showed them all that, ready or not, this war was upon them now, and they each would experience loss, and allowed us to see how they would react to it. In the previous volume, it was to build up a sense of healing and encouragement that they could win, as well as getting the characters to overcome the pains of their past and become stronger. Here in Volume 5, we see a protagonist finally achieving victory, but not without further warning of what was at stake and what some could become. Again, it's funny that many say that this volume was the worst, as it's so far it's done as good or even better than some of the others when it came to the character and the story. There have been issues, to which may be why this isn't remembered that fondly.
It just goes to show that a single problem can turn into a big one if left untreated. And Miles and Carrie not realizing that they needed to take extra time and care with Adam goes to show that they're not that great of writers.
Oh God, here we go again.
I seriously wonder if these two have dirt or something on Bernie and Matt, because that's the only reason I can imagine them still screwing up like this and not being fired for it. I mean, that may change considering the fact that Bernie and Matt are no longer in charge, but you get my point. These guys put so much money towards the VAs, but not towards a half-decent writer? Now, while they have done wonders with many of the other characters, they either can't seem to remember that the bad guys are still people too, or they think that this
I am making humanity pay for what they've done!
is how a leader like Adam should act. Some say that the Beta Boys' political views seeped into RWBY's writing. And while I have no doubt that the writers' beliefs do influence some of their work, I don't think that's the case here. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that they made Adam like this because they wanted to show us just how bad toxic masculinity and men are. Though, given their stance with Vic, I wouldn't put it past them.
Remember, while I do stand with Vic, I don't stand with him. I will be spared in his cleansing.
No, as a writer, this smells more like rushed work. Like they knew that they weren't going to have enough time to fully flesh out his character and weren't really willing to spread this out another volume, so they delivered the usual stereotype that would be for this moment. Someone who's full of themselves, someone who doesn't care about their cause, only their own pain, someone who is easily disliked and easily defeated. But because of that, it more or less ruins the end of this volume, much of the potential that the White Thing had, and as the future would show us, Volume 6 as well.
Now again, there were other ways that still would have ended with Adam being defeated, but at least they would have left him as a liked, unlikable character.
And none of that, here are reasons he's actually good, even though they're clearly just excuses so they better fit our narrative. Baloney. Because despite some fan facts out there that are barely theories, before this, Adam was not abusive towards Blake. He was not an edgelord. He was for his cause despite his pain, possibly even encouraged by his pain, and it was clear that his personality was changed to suit this new narrative. But some small, strange, fringe part of the fandom wanted this. You got it! And it's why you don't like the volume. Cause story, character development, and even some of the combat were all good. This here is the only completely unlikable part of the volume. If it had gone down differently, if instead of changing his personality, they kept it by changing his motivations, perhaps this could have been avoided.
And again, I did make another little skit about one of the ways this could have been written better. And again, you can click on the screen or the link in the description to see it.
For those who didn't,
I completely understand.
thank you for your support. You're just like my mom. But anyways, basically it had Adam, again, cool, calm, and collected, facing off against Blake. I included the previous episode because I didn't want to make two of these. But in essence, instead of turning on his people, he stood for them, tried to convince the others, and when failed, was willing to end himself to save the rest of the White Fang, which in turn would have made them fight harder for their leader. Something along these lines, because it would have made it harder, and thus more fun to see Blake try to turn the White Fang, and it would have set Adam up as a sympathetic character. We would have not have been able to agree with his motives nor his actions, but we would have understood them and pitied the man that had been hurt so much that not even his former love could reach him now. Literally, it was supposed to be the opposite of Ilya. What happens when someone you wish you could reach just can't be? However, this is the Adam that we're saddled with. Where they take his character, we don't know yet. But hopefully, Miles and Carrie learn from this mistake and forge a better path for their villains.
Probably should have started making these reviews sooner. Not that they would have listened to them, because apparently all RWBY critics are bad, but yeah, because Volume 6. Thank you, Foreshadowing Ghost, but let's bring up Flashback Phantom and talk about one scene, because you guys know I won't be able to end this volume without bashing the Bumblebeers one last time.
Stupid flintlock pistol.
But yeah, a lot of people were again pointing to here and there, saying that this was proof that there was some hidden meaning in it, and it proves that these two have some secret feelings towards each other. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have taken a psychology class. I'm assuming that you have, as it's likely required in your gender studies. But there's a little term known as self-confirmation bias, because I believe a lot of you Bumblebeers have it. Basically, it's looking for and favoring information and evidence that supports your existing beliefs, and ignoring all the rest. Because to the average viewer who doesn't know or care about the shipping world, this is just the stereotypical situation of two people smiling at each other after not seeing the other for some time, and two friends showing that forgiveness has already been given. And again, going throughout the entire series so far, thank you Flashback Phantom, there isn't much evidence to continue to support your obsession, which is what it is by now. I mean, seriously, you can't simply enjoy the fact that Blake and Yang are trying to make up for what happened and fix their friendship. You really have to keep forcing the idea that they must be in love with each other. Now, because I can hear your fat rattling gasps for air, yes, this bias can indeed be equally applied to the reverse, as in people who are convinced that there isn't a relationship, so they don't and won't see one. Well, I too can easily fall prey to that.
So you admit it!
Except that I've already said time and time again that I don't care. I don't care who ends up with who, so long as it's done right and naturally, and for the characters. And so far, it seems far more likely that these are just two good friends that deeply care for each other than some secret romance that they haven't really brought up yet.
Have I lost all my subscribers yet and been branded a homophobe?
One can only hope.
Anyways, all that was less about hate towards the Bumblebee ship and more annoyance at people forcing it. This isn't your story and they don't have to end up with each other. If it's going to happen, then let it happen. If not, then just accept it. Better that it never happened than you guys force it to occur unnaturally or even make it remotely feel forced and ruin what could have been something beautiful.
But back to talking about this volume, because it was actually really well done, both in story and character.
Sure, we started off a bit shaky when it came to the action, most of what little there was being rather uninteresting and bland compared to what came before. But here and there, especially with the second to last one, they showed that they are trying and learning to give us what is deserved of this show's reputation. However, the fighting was and always has been, even in the first trailer, second when it came to the emotion and growth of our characters. And each of them has grown and evolved a good deal over this season, both the main four as well as some others.
My lollies. My waifus. Oh, they're growing up too fast.
Though she could have been in it a bit more, RWBY certainly has shown that she indeed is the leader that her team needed, gently encouraging and inspiring the others with her own courage and hope. Weiss also has come a long way from the annoying, whiny, self-entitled brat that got her on so many people's bad side, for some reason, because now it is she who puts others before herself. Before, she was the quietest of the four, but now Blake is truly standing up for her people, and through it has learned to not only rely on her friends, but to face her fears and stand her ground. Yang too has had to finally face her fears, as since the second season, we knew that she had looked for her mother, but never knew what she was going to do when she found her. And after a rather unimpactful performance last season, seeing her in tears no doubt had others moved to them as well.
I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna cry, I'm crying, I'm crying.
But as I said, they weren't the only ones to grow throughout the volume's focus, for even our side characters have had some time in the light. Oscar showing us some of the fear that we wanted and finding the courage from it. Some of the villains being given more dimensions to them than just the make them pay as well. Seeing the effects of Salem's reach and influence, and most impactful, the fragility behind the frame of Raven. But all this would be little more than more of what we're used to without plot. And the story has certainly developed that. The secrets that Ozpin has tried to hide, to the pain that the White Fang couldn't stand any longer, to the political strife that governs this scarred world, to the influence and impact that our girls have had on it all.
It may have taken it over 4 volumes to finally take the spotlight, but it seems from here on out, we'll be treated to more of it.
And how they've handled the few plot twists this season was done well and executed nicely. Knowing that some would be very cliched, they instead focused on building the impact of the others. Leo's betrayals, Raven's selfish choice, and the villain's trap all were left bare with no real attempt to a shocking reveal, as the audience could already see it coming. Instead, they put their effort into building up just enough for Raven's reveal, her emotional conflict, and the gentle, near wordless reunion of Team RWBY.
All my waifus are back together at last. And then they kissed.
There are so many moments that they handled correctly in this volume, far more than they spoiled.
Yang's emotional breakdown and Weiss's support, knowing all too well of the abandonment that Yellow feels. Oscar's fears of what he is being forced into, and Ruby's reassurance that though they can't control what hand life has dealt them, they are not alone and they can win. Crow's discovery of the Fallen and our continued discovery of the dangers of the Huntsman's life. And Raven and Yang, mother and daughter. The one that is supposed to take on the world for the other, and the other one that has had to shoulder it alone because the former left. So many great scenes. And it was all brought together by the amazing animation. Truly, hats off to the animation department. You guys may not be as glamorous as the writers, not as well known as the voice actors, not as revered as the creator, and not as well paid as the producers, but RWBY would be nothing but a dream in the mind of a man without you. Thank you for giving it your all, even if it goes underappreciated sometimes. For the animation here has gone beyond what the first 3 seasons achieved. While their style and charm still holds a place in the hearts of those who first saw it, now RWBY looks like a real show. In a time where even the slightest hint that you're connected as an internet show gets you not even a second look, now RWBY can stand up and show that it can look as great as it sounds.
So when it comes down to it, this was a good season. However, I would be able to understand why some can't bring themselves to agree with that. There were just enough things mishandled here to make it unavoidable to ignore. However, there were just enough great things as well.
In other words, Make up your own damn mind, you idiots. I ain't your babysitter.
And this has been pretty much the same story for each season so far. The first two even had some issues with their endings as well. But like them, there were other things that made them fun. To simply damn a single season or even an entire show simply because there is something or even a few things that you didn't like isn't a good measurement on calling it good or bad. And objectively speaking, this was a good season. It had some problems that may or may not be fixed in the next volume, but there's one thing for sure. If you truly are a fan of good shows, you'll watch the next season, and the next one, and the next one, till the show has spoken its last word and the credits have rolled. Because we won't know how it ends until it does.
RWBY, as I've said before, is no masterpiece of cinema. Its writers no great carvers of story. But it has done much more than most, and has brought us much to love. From its setting to its themes, to its villains, to its memes. And most importantly of all, to the characters that we love so dearly. For as the man himself said, there's not much else we can do but to keep moving forward. For who knows what the future may have in store for us. And whatever it is, I will meet it when it arrives, and I will only allow it to inspire me. To go forth and do good. To go forth and do better. To go forth and inspire in turn. For I'm Ricardo, the Cynical Critic. With me, no movie is perfect. With me, no video is without flaw. But all deserve at least a little bit of your attention so that you can decide for yourself. For who knows? You might end up surprising yourself. But you won't find out till at least you give it a chance. I'll catch you all next time. Toodles!
Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier and welcome to an indie horror game that you guys suggested en masse, and I saw that Yamimash played it and he said it was really, really good. So I'm very eager to see what is up.
A few moments later.
What's that sound? Oh, he's right there. Well, he's not here just yet. I don't want to run out of power. Oh, the sounds, I don't like them. Oh, fuck! No! Oh, no! Fucking fuck! I tried to push it! Oh my god! Oh!